There are moments in life when silence is more dangerous than confrontation, when forgiveness becomes the very seed of your downfall. We live in a world where people wear masks. Some smile while plotting, others praise while poisoning. Power isn't lost in one great collapse. It decays quietly through the actions we excuse. And the more we justify certain behaviors in the name of love or loyalty, the more we invite ruin to sit beside us. This is not a message for the naive. This is not advice for those who believe kindness alone can hold an empire together. What follows is a revelation. 7 behaviors that no leader, no builder, no protector should ever tolerate. Because no matter how deeply you love someone, love does not require you to surrender your vision, your throne, or your survival. Some actions, once seen for what they are, demand a single response: exile. If you want to last, learn this truth. There are lines that must never be crossed, and when they are, forgiveness is not a virtue. It is an invitation to destruction. 1. Betrayal in the storm. There is a moment that defines every relationship, not in comfort but in crisis. When the winds rise and foundations shake, loyalty isn't spoken, it is shown. In those hours when everything you built begins to crumble, you will see faces disappear, not out of necessity, but choice. Their silence will echo louder than words because their absence is a statement. You are no longer useful. The harsh truth is this: those who vanish when you're drowning were ever swimming beside you. They were only waiting for the sun, and when it sets, they scatter. These aren't friends, they aren't allies. They are spectators who mistake your life for a stage, who cheer in your triumphs but sneak out when the show turns dark. Forgiving them is like patching a sinking ship with lies. It doesn't hold, it only delays the inevitable. Never accept excuses wrapped in delay. Never confuse a reappearance for repentance. A man who steps back when the storm hits will step back again, and next time he may not even return. What is broken in the moment of need is rarely repaired with words. Let their exit be permanent. Let their betrayal remind you that loyalty isn't about celebration, it's about presence when there's nothing to gain. That is the only loyalty worth building upon. Betrayal is often subtle. It arrives as hesitation, not attack. It disguises itself as being too busy, as dealing with things. But the timing always reveals the tea. Ruth. When you are at your weakest, the ones who matter show up. The ones who don't reveal who they truly were all along. Their absence speaks volumes, and the message is simple: your pain is not worth their time. You may be tempted to forgive. You may tell yourself people panic, people flinch. But understand this: when someone leaves you in the storm, it isn't about fear, it's about choice. They weighed your hardship against their comfort and they walked away. That kind of weighing cannot be reversed by apologies, because it shows their priorities, and you are not among them. When you survive the storm, and you will, they might return. With soft eyes, with regretful words, with reasons that sound almost convincing. But what you must remember is this: a man who vanished once will vanish again. The conditions don't change the character. A person who chooses self-preservation over presence is not a mistake to be corrected. They're a lesson to be remembered. Your loyalty is not convenient. It is costly. It asks for time when there is none. It asks for action when there is risk, and most of all, it demands visibility when everyone else disappears. A loyal person doesn't just support your strength, they stand guard over your vulnerability. Do not keep people who disappear in crisis within your circle, because loyalty is a fortress, not a revolving door. Each re-entry without consequence makes your foundation weaker. People begin to learn that presence is optional, that disappearance is forgiven, and that your loyalty is stronger than your standards. And once that belief sets in, your world begins to hollow from within. Protect your peace by remembering who protected you, Not just when it was easy, but when it was messy, chaotic, and uncertain. Because in those moments when you were surrounded by silence, the ones who showed up spoke more loudly than 1,000 apologies from those who didn't. You don't need to confront every betrayal, but you do need to distance yourself quietly, permanently. Don't fight to explain, don't ask them why. Just remember the silence, remember the absence, and let that be enough. True loyalty is not proved by presence in celebration, it's proven in collapse. Keep those who stayed when everything broke, and forget the rest. They already made their decision. Make yours. 2. The fearful leader. True leadership isn't measured by popularity, nor by the elegance of one's speeches. It's revealed when chaos erupts, when decisions must be made under pressure, and when silence from the top becomes dangerous. A fearful leader doesn't scream or cry out. His fear manifests in hesitation, in endless meetings, in the quiet wish that someone else will step forward and take the fall. You might not notice it at first. The fearful leader is often articulate. They ear thoughtful. They ask for more data, more input, more time. But time is the enemy in crisis, and delays are often fatal. Their questions are masks for avoidance. Their calm is not composure, it is retreat. And under that retreat, a system loses its spine. The collapse doesn't start from the outside. It begins when the people who look up realize their leader is looking sideways, hoping for consensus where conviction is needed. The chain of command breaks down not when an enemy strikes, but when the top link goes limp. Inaction breeds doubt. Doubt multiplies into panic. Panic causes collapse. The fearful leader tells himself he is being strategic, but strategy without movement is just decoration. He worries more about how he will appear than what must be done, and in doing so, he forfeits the one thing a leader cannot lose: trust. Trust that he will act. Trust that he will lead. Trust that even when he is wrong, at least he is decisive. Fear is human, but leader must learn to cage it, channel it, and never let it leak into the room where others are looking for direction. If your team senses your fear, they will begin to make plans that do not include you, not out of malice, but necessity. What begins as hesitation quickly turns into replacement. The fearful leader is slowly nudged aside, not by enemies, but by those who used to believe in him. The moment people begin planning contingencies without consulting you, your leadership has already ended. You just haven't been informed yet. Do not be mistaken. Ruthlessness is not required. Cruelty is not leadership. But clarity is, direction is. The ability to say, we move now, even when no one can see the path, that is the burden of leadership. A coward with a crown is more dangerous than a tyrant. The tyrant will at least act. The coward will watch the kingdom burn, too afraid to offend those holding the matches. He will issue no commands, he will offend no one. And, in pleasing all, he will protect nothing. If you lead, you must lead first through presence. Eyes must turn to you, and you must never be found looking away. Leadership is less about perfect decisions and more about timely ones. A flawed move is still a move. Indecision, however, is stagnation, and stagnation is death. You must accept this truth. Not every decision will be applauded. Some will be condemned. But what they cannot do is claim you were absent. In a vacuum of action, even fools will offer direction, and desperate people will follow. So speak when the silence gets heavy. Move when others freeze. And above all, never allow fear to dress itself in the robes of diplomacy. People may forgive errors. They may understand loss, but they will never forget abandonment. 3. The poison of flattery. Not every enemy stands against you. Some kneel too easily. Their allegiance seems absolute, their praise endless. But look closely. Too much agreement is a warning, and flattery, when constant, is rarely about support. It's about access. There is a particular kind of danger that creeps in softly. It doesn't challenge, it doesn't question, it only compliments. At first, it feels like loyalty, like affirmation, but soon it becomes a mirror that only reflects your strengths, never your weaknesses. Flatterers are not interested in your growth, they are interested in their survival. And to them, your power is a ladder they intend to climb. Their praise is in truth its currency, and they spend it generously until they no longer need you. You may think having people around who support you unconditionally is a strength, but unconditional agreement is a void. It offers no feedback, no friction. And without those, leadership decays, or ill allies correct you. They challenge ideas. They dare to say no when it matters. And though their voices may sting, their truth protects you. Flatterers, however, build castles of illusion. And in those castles, leaders grow blind. If you find yourself surrounded by voices that echo your every thought, be careful. You are not being advised, you are being managed. And when crisis comes, mirrors don't fight, they shatter. Keep one or two voices around you who have nothing to gain. Those are the people who will speak plainly. They may not always be agreeable, but they will be essential. A compliment can be genuine, but when it becomes a tool, it turns you into an idol instead of a leader. And idols fall, not from pushback, but from erosion, the kind that comes from within unnoticed. Ask yourself, when was the last time someone close to you disagreed? If the answer is distant, you may not be leading, you may be acting. Leadership requires truth. Truth demands discomfort, and discomfort is only born from honesty. Keep those who bring it, lose those who never dare. 4. The one who publicly challenges your authority is rarely lost in a single blow. It decays through tolerances, small gestures of disrespect that go unanswered. Among the most corrosive of these is public defiance, not a disagreement spoken in private, but a calculated challenge delivered in front of others, where silence becomes consent. Some people do not oppose you to seek truth, they challenge you to test your footing. When they speak against you before others, they are measuring our response, not your wisdom. Their goal is not clarity, but exposure. And if you let it slide, you've told every witness exactly what they needed to know. You're afraid of confrontation. A leader cannot afford to be passive in the public square. Disagreements can be welcomed, but setting matters. When someone crosses the line of respect in front of an audience, they signal to the group that your word can be mocked and your position contested. The danger isn't just in the moment, tis in the precedent, because the first challenge unanswered becomes the door through which the second walks in more boldly. And soon your leadership becomes an open forum, not a command. This doesn't mean you must humiliate those who disagree, but it does mean you must set the boundary unmistakably. You don't have to raise your voice, but you do need to raise the standard. The one who publicly challenges you is not simply asking a question. They are staging a performance, and if I succeed in making you seem defensive, uncertain, or weak, the audience remembers that, not the details of the exchange. Reassert your role calmly but firmly. Make it clear that order has its place, that respect is not optional, not because you are fragile, but because leadership requires structure. When you hold that line, you do more than silence rebellion. You remind everyone watching what leadership looks like under pressure. Let them speak if they must, but let the consequences follow. Because when defiance becomes entertainment, your throne becomes a stage, and someone else begins writing the script. 5. The ungrateful one. There is no sound to ingratitude. It doesn't announce itself like a traitor or strike like an enemy. It simply withdraws, quietly, deliberately, and fatally. You pour into someone, elevate them, shield them, and one day they forget. Not out of distraction, but intent, because remembering would cost them something. Humility. The ungrateful rewrite their own origin stories. They delete the chapters where you helped them rise, and in doing so, they place themselves at the center of every victory, while your contributions are painted as invisible. But make no mistake, gratitude is not about debt, it's about acknowledgement. And when that is gone, so is trust. Do not confuse politeness with appreciation. The ungrateful may say thank you, but their actions erase every syllable. They don't protect what you gave, they exploit it. They trade the favor you extended for leverage with others, and when your influence wanes, they vanish like you ever existed. You must understand this clearly. Those who benefit from your strength but abandon you in your struggle are not neutral. They are dangerous, because their silence in your downfall will be matched by their opportunism in your vulnerability. The most dangerous part? The ungrateful often come wrapped in charm. They know how to mirror gratitude just long enough to stay in your good graces. But pay attention. When the giving stops, so does their loyalty. Gratitude is a test, and once someone fails it, you must not administer it again. To forgive in gratitude is to plant the seed of disloyalty in the soil of your inner circle, and once planted, it grows faster than any virtue. Cut ties not with malice, but with memory, not with revenge, but with clarity. Remember who disappeared when you were depleted, who never called when you fell, who spoke of your generosity only to discredit you later. Build a circle that honors history, where your past efforts are not romanticized but respected. A loyal person doesn't repay everything, but they remember enough to never turn their back on you when your strength runs low. Leadership isn't just about power, it's about people. And the ungrateful undermine both. Protect your legacy by refuge to nourish those who forgot how they rose. 6. The ambitious without loyalty. Ambition is neither good nor bad. It is energy, fire, and like any fire, it must be directed or it will burn indiscriminately. The ambitious man with no loyalty is such a fire. He burns brightly, draws attention, accomplishes much, but he leaves ashes in places you hoped to build. These individuals often stand out. They move quickly, talk persuasively, execute flawlessly. But beneath the shine is a hollow center. They serve no mission but their own. And when the moment comes to choose between your vision and their elevation, they will not hesitate. Don't be fooled by neutral tones and quiet observations. These people are not harmless, they are simply patient. They avoid open conflict not out of virtue but calculation. They want to be available to all outcomes, and in doing so they align with none. The disloyally ambitious aren't overtly treacherous. They are slippery, hard to pin down, always just cooperative enough to avoid suspicion. But their goals are not tied to your success. They are orbiting it, waiting for a shift. And once power starts to move, they will move with it. There is a reason kingdoms fall from the inside, because the brightest minds are often also the most dangerous when left untethered. Machiavelli didn't fear his enemies. He feared the talented who lacked allegiance. If you have someone in your ranks who seems too perfect, too neutral, too agreeable, test them. Assign them a risk where the reward benefits only you. See what they do. Loyalty shines in sacrifice. Disloyalty hides in deflection. You don't need to eliminate every ambitious man, but you must never leave them free. Bind them through shared purpose, through visible ties, through shared outcomes. If they won't commit, then they must be moved. Because no matter how talented, no matter how effective, a man who serves only himself is a danger waiting for the right timing. Remember this, the person who never chooses sides is simply waiting to replace both. 7. The weaponized moralist. Not every attack is loud. Some come dressed in righteousness. These individuals don't shout, they posture, they don't rebel. They question gently, consistently, and with strategic timing. And they don't need swords to bring down a leader. They only need the crowd. They speak of ethics, of fairness, of what's right. But their concern isn't justice. It's positioning. By elevating themselves morally, they lower you politically. They know how to frame deceit as virtue and leadership as ego, and if you're not careful, you will find yourself defending your character instead of leading your people. These are the most dangerous adversaries because they don't just question what you do, they question who you are. And in doing so, they shift the narrative from governance to guilt. You become a defendant in a trial of appearances, and they play the noble prosecutor with perfect timing. Be aware, they aren't looking for reform, they're hunting for your seat. And they use the voice of the people not to elevate justice, but to amplify pressure. If you concede to their tone, apologize unnecessarily, or show weakness in response, you validate their game. And the crowd, always sensing weakness, begins to wonder whether you belong at the helm at all. This kind of moral manipulation is subtle. It works because the audience wants heroes, and the manipulator wears that mask well. But real morality doesn't parade itself, it is quietly, with consistency. Call them out not with rage, but with clarity. Define the line between personal values and political maneuvering. Recenter the conversation around results, not rhetoric. And never forget that once the throne is subjected to moral popularity contests, it ceases to be a place of command. Lead with integrity, yes, but never let that integrity be weaponized against you by those who seek power cloaked in virtue. Because the man who moralizes in public, the scheming in private, is not a reformer, he is a rival. We've walked through the shadows, the hidden knives cloaked in charm, the silent assassins disguised as saints. What threatens power, trust, and legacy isn't the loud opposition, but the subtle rot that grows beneath the surface. A betrayal forgiven becomes a lesson in what you'll tolerate. A coward empowered becomes a signal that strength can be questioned. A flatterer embraced becomes a mirror that distorts your clarity. If you wish to lead, you must not only act with vision, but defy, and it with resolve. The moment you excuse what should have been punished, you create a culture where silence is consent and weakness becomes the law. Never forgive what aims to replace you. Never tolerate what secretly hopes you fail. Never allow emotions to override instincts, because in the end your legacy won't be determined by how many you forgave, but by how fiercely you protected what was worth building.